Operation Legend is the heart of the federal government's response to this upturn in violent crime. Its mission is to save lives, solve crimes, and take violent offenders off the streets before they can claim more victims. Rather than demonizing and defunding our police, we are supporting and strengthening our law enforcement partners at the state and local level.
Operation Legend racking up some big prosecution numbers right now, going after, using the tools of the federal government, federal law enforcement to go after violent criminals. This should be something that all of America is on board for, completely supportive of, and celebrates. Instead, what we have are Democrats talking about eliminating all police or imagining a future without police. An absurdity. I mean, a true absurdity. And that's their position as widely expressed by many, many different senior Democrat office holders. It's just too much, friends. At some point, it has become clear the Democrat Party has had a real break with reality when on the law enforcement issue, and they're there right now, and they can't really back out of it. They don't have a means of making this all go away. They wish they could, but now they're stuck. When I say they, I mean the top of the establishment. You know, Joe Biden doesn't want to have to be the guy who's like, yeah, sure, let's get rid of cops. And so he won't say that. He won't say that, but he also can't call out. He can't quiet down other people from within the Democrat ranks that do want that to happen. And this is important. It's worth asking, why would anybody want this? What advantage do Democrats see in this? Why do they want to undermine police? And there are multiple answers to it. There are a lot of layers to it. On the one hand, police, because they are instruments of state force, are going to be are targets in our society of the social justice left, because the law is something that the left does not yet have full control of. There are aspects of the law, things like murder is bad and will be punished, rape is bad and will be punished. There are aspects of the law that are still enforced without regard to social justice status, and that there are disparities in the enforcement of the law as a result of that. I'm not saying disparities that are based in bias. There are disparities rooted in the committing of crimes, in the commission of crimes. For example, no one ever looks at this, but it is very interesting on a per capita basis. And this is just a way. This is a way we can have this discussion, I think, where we're allowed without Media Matters trying to get everybody ruined and fired and all that stuff. Although maybe they'll do that anyway. Asian Americans are per capita far less likely to commit a violent crime than white Americans are. And isn't that interesting? But there's never a claim made of systemic bias in law enforcement because of that disparity. We never hear that claim. I've also talked to you about violent crime. Men, right? There's still this gender. There's still this group of people known as men, although I know the Democrats are trying to eliminate that too. Men are over 90% of violent crime perpetrators in this country. It's probably over 95%. Men are the ones that commit violent crimes. A true equity-based justice system looks at, not equality-based, an equity-based justice system looks at that and says, well, there must be something wrong here. There must be something wrong. But they're not yet at that place where they'll do it for the genders. They haven't yet gone far enough along this pathway they'll do it for genders. But they do this when it comes to racial issues. They say, look at the numbers, look at the disparity. There must be a problem in the enforcement and not a problem in aggregate conduct. Why is it true that Asian Americans are less likely than their white American counterparts to commit violent crimes? I don't know. We talk about cultural issues or everything else, but it's true, and yet nobody makes some big political case about it. We just accept that that's what is happening. That is the reality right now. Okay. That's one component of this. That's why police get attacked, because police are the instruments of the state enforcing laws that liberals view as oppressing certain communities. That's one part of it. But there's another part, perhaps even a broader philosophical component of this. and it is that liberals recognize, and when libs, leftists, we really should just say leftists. We need better terms to describe the other side. That's one of our great failings. They package us very unfairly, but they do so in a way that is potent. We have all these leftists, socialists, statists. I mean, socialist, I think, is a pretty good one, and that one I like these a lot. Marxist has a clear anti-American twang to it, if you will. There's something very, a Marxist. But we need better terminology for them. Because all they do is just throw isms at us all the time. Racism, sexism, xenophobia is not an ism, but it's the same kind of idea. But one of the reasons that they like the approach of defund the police and less enforcement of the law is that that's going to create a population that is increasingly frightened and unhappy. And if you're a collectivist, if you want the mass mobilization to occur of movements that you can then control, you want people who are frightened and who are unhappy. That is the perfect formula for domination of a group of people's psychology. If you make them scared and you make them feel like they're miserable, and you come along and say, I know why. It's not your fault. Your misery is not your fault, and I will fix it because it is these people, it is this other group of people that have made you miserable. This is classic demagoguery. And it's central to the Democrat project. And the police in this analogy are these people. These people are the reason that you have all these problems, all these social dysfunctions. And we see it with the law enforcement issue. We also see it with the response to COVID-19. I mean, I am flabbergasted. There's still so many people trying to make this claim that schools should be closed. That's just nuts. Schools should be open. Colleges should be open. Sports should be played in colleges. President Trump's right when he says this, play 20.
Individuals with underlying conditions, for older people and individuals with underlying conditions, the China virus is very dangerous, but for university students, the likelihood of severe illness is less than or equal to the risk of a seasonal flu. And the seasonal flu happens and comes and it goes, and it can be very bad, but people don't talk about it in the same way, and they shouldn't. But if you look at that, the odds are less than or equal to. Instead of saving lives, the decision to close universities could cost lives. It is significantly safer for students to live with other young people than to go home and spread the virus to older Americans. Make sense?
This is all true. This is all reality. And yet, Democrats who claim constantly to be the ones listening to science ignore this. What really is the claim here? You have the teachers' unions that get a little brazen and start to make demands like they're holding America hostage. I mean, they make that quite clear. And then when there's a bit of pushback on it, we all recognize, so they're really just trying to use this moment. The teachers' unions want to extract more. They want to pretend they're afraid for their health, and then they want to extract more from the taxpayer and do less work and hurt families, parents, kids all across the country for their own narrow interests. So there's been at least a little bit of a pushback on that. We have seen that teachers' unions just exist as jobs programs for adults and really have no interest in assisting in assisting the situation beyond that. But a miserable population, they believe, is more susceptible, the Democrats believe, is more susceptible to being molded and manipulated and vote Democrat. That is the belief. That is central to the entire Democrat message right now. I can't believe we're losing our home that we didn't even sell. That's what Deborah said when she found out that she was the victim of home title theft, which is a crime that can actually cost you your home. Here's how it works. The bad guys find your information online because that's where it is. And then they forge your signature stating that you sold your home to them. Then you don't find out about this often until the eviction notice arrives. It's a very devastating fraud with obviously enormous economic implications for you and your family. Take action today. Home Title Lock can create a virtual barrier around your home's title. This can help protect you from this growing fraud. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com Enter promo code BUCK, and you can get 30 free days of protection. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com. Enter promo code BUCK for 30 free days of protection. You can also check at the site to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it yet. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code BUCK. She went mega viral this week with an ad for her congressional campaign in Baltimore. Here's just a little reminder of what it sounded like. Producer Mark, play it.
Do you care about Black lives? The people that run Baltimore don't. I can prove it. Walk with me. They don't want you to see this. I'm Kim Klasick. This is Baltimore, the real Baltimore. This is the reality for Black people every single day. Crumbling infrastructure, abandoned homes, poverty, and crime. Baltimore has been run by the Democrat Party for 53 years. What is the result of their decades of leadership? Baltimore is one of the top 5 most dangerous cities in America.
Kim Klasick joins us now. Kim, my friend, congratulations on your viral ad. We first want to get an update on how is your run for Congress in Baltimore going? Whose seat are you running for? Tell us some things.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I've not seen you in so long, it feels like. We've both been so busy. But I'm running in Maryland's Congressional District number 7. This is a seat that was held formerly by the late Congressman Cummings. Congressman Kwesi Mfume won the special election. And so now he holds the seat, but I'm hoping to unseat him here on November 3rd. I already won the primary on June 2nd. We released that ad basically to show people, we were hoping to at least show people in Baltimore that we truly care about the neglected areas. And for some reason, somehow, it went all over the country. So we're really happy about that.
Now, Kim, you part of the ad, one aspect of it was you just out there truly walking the streets of areas of Baltimore that I've seen as well. I've been in parts of East and West Baltimore that are deeply depressing and distressing for any American to see the conditions there. You walked the streets, though, and also spoke to residents. And what I want to know is, we played the audio of your ad yesterday about the cops specifically, but when you try to talk to people who live in these parts of Baltimore and when you speak to African Americans and say, what has the Democrat Party done for you? What do they say? I mean, are they frustrated, or do they really think the Democrat Party is trying but just hasn't had enough time? What are their feelings on this?
Yeah, so I think the feelings are mixed. There's some people that say, you know what, I'm going to vote for you because I understand the Democrats haven't done anything. And then some people, I think, are misinformed. Right now, especially what you hear in the mainstream media all the time, the Republican Party is like the party for racists, right? They truly believe that. And so people actually come and they'll talk to me about basically, people saying that, okay, well, I think you can make a change, but how can you make a change? And I understand, I have to actually lay out some videos and some plans and the platform. At the same time, people are also saying, definitely we can think about voting for you in the future. You just got to show us what you can do. So right now we have people that are at least interested in hearing us. And I think that's half the battle.
And are you having a lot of people that are coming forward from the community, from Baltimore, who are just excited at the idea or at least intrigued by the idea of a change from what they've seen? Because, Baltimore it's like the Detroit of the East Coast, meaning it has just been in bad shape for a long time, a lot of crime and a lot of poverty. So, and what is your pitch to them when they say, okay, I'm open to things being better for us here. But in a majority black city like Baltimore, and you as a young black woman approaching a lot of voters who have been voting Democrat for a long time, what do you tell them you want to try to do for them to make things better?
Yeah, so I first talk about the fact that there's a lack of career opportunities in the area. People, and I tell them, hey, look, there are not any careers for, say you graduate from high school, college, whatever, you can't stay in this area. And that's a problem. Why not be able to work and still live in the area in which you grew up in? I talk a lot about, look how we relied on other countries during the lockdown, the coronavirus pandemic. Other countries were basically helping us out with our PPE. Baltimore has the second largest port in the country. Why not bring that billion-dollar medical equipment industry back through the Baltimore port and have some careers, have some opportunities? I talk about school choice. I talk about how bad and poor the education system is here. We've got students that graduate unable to do math, read, write, doing the basics. I said, there are things here we can change and change quickly. But, you got to be able to vote for somebody else that has these ideas and will follow through on them.
Kim, you've had millions and millions of hits on this ad, which it's like every political consultant's dream to create a congressional ad for one congressional race that then goes viral all across the country and gets talked about on shows like this one that are heard by people in all 50 states. Have you had the president reach out directly yet? I mean, who now that you're on the radar in this way, what's it been like? What's happening?
Yeah, so, President Trump did tweet the other night and say that, Kim will help us in Baltimore. But I have been talking to, in his administration, one of his advisors. His name is Jerron Smith. And believe it or not, we've been speaking since, I would say, probably around November of last year about things that we can do in the community. Back in January, I took some community leaders from Sandtown, Easterwood, some of those neighborhoods that you saw in my videos. We went to the White House to talk to Jerron about possibly doing more with the opportunity zones in West Baltimore. So as far as I know, the administration is going to come back at the end of September and do a walkthrough, and we're going to lay out a plan on what exactly they can do. So, they're all for it. I'm excited. I know the president, from what I hear, is excited. I've heard from the RNC. They called to congratulate me about the video. And now we're talking about me possibly speaking at the convention. So it's been going pretty well.
That would be great, and I think that would be certainly a smart move on their behalf. I fully endorse and support for whatever that's worth, although I do know some of the people involved in that process, so I'll make sure that I try to reach out, Kim. But I also want to know, do you think there's always this hope? No one's expecting that President Trump is going to win the black vote as a percentage, that he's going to get a majority of it. But you had 1 million black Americans in 2016, roughly 1 million, vote for Donald Trump. If he were even able to get 15 or 20% of the black vote, it would be a death blow for the Democrat Party's national level hopes. Is there any ground here you think that can be made up? I mean, you could be a part of this effort that not only, I know you got to focus on winning your own congressional race, but at the national level, it seems like voices like yours could have an effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I talked to the RNC about, when they gave me a call. I say, when we walk the streets and we talk to people, the first thing I ask them is I say, what would make you vote for a Republican this time around? And they say, you know what, Kim, you're the first Republican I've ever met. And I said, bingo, that's the problem. We've got to be able to get in these communities and stop just writing them off because they're heavily Democratic. A lot of people just haven't had another option come their way. So it's like we got to get out in the streets and talk to people. I told the RNC a great place to start would help me with my race in Baltimore. And we can show people, on videos, pictures, whatever. Social media is, it has a force these days. Why not show people in other cities what you can do in their city, not just Baltimore, but a city that might look just like it. The crime and violence is off the charts. I know you talked about the people in the video talking about defunding the police. Nobody in these neighborhoods that we spoke to want to defund the police. They want more police presence. A lot of the people say, you focus on the bad parts of Baltimore, not the good parts.
Kim Klacik, everybody, running for Congress in Baltimore. Kim, thank you so much. Good luck to you. We'll talk to you soon.
We're working with a number of local authorities to add drop boxes because we've lost faith in the Postal Service because of the sabotage of the president. And so, again, this infrastructure of voter protection has never been more robust. It's shameful that the president tries to make it harder for eligible people to vote, but it's not surprising. And we're not going to tolerate it.
This is not going to go away. They're going to stay on this no matter what the president does, no matter what he says. It's just too seductive a narrative for the libs for there to be this Trump is cheating by destroying the post office storyline. We can't get around it. We can't deal with it. We can't avoid it in a way that they'll stop. They're going to continue on with this because there's a part of the lib brain right now, I think, that recognizes they've got a weak candidate, a totally uninspiring ticket, top and bottom of the ticket. And going forward, if things start to look a little bit better for the country, and as much as they're trying to suppress it, as much as the Make America Miserable Again campaign continues for the Democrats, may not be enough. And so they start to go with these narratives. They start to tell us these things that we know they'll hold on to no matter what the facts actually show, because it is psychologically comforting. It's psychologically comforting that Democrats, even if they lose, they'll tell themselves that they won. One other point, though, there was a lot of talk about ethics and morality last night at the DNC. A lot of sense that there would be a restoration of those things. Bernie Sanders, senior, I think she's senior spokesperson for him. I don't know. It's tied to the Bernie Sanders campaign. Simone Sanders, obviously no relation, but Simone Sanders, here's what she said. Play 18.
We're going to reassert Vice President Biden's position, which is in a Biden administration, his children will not have offices in the West Wing. They will not serve as administration officials. A Biden administration will uphold the policies that the Obama-Biden administration upheld as it relates to really ensuring that we're not crossing lines here. The ethics policy, there was a very high ethics bar in the Obama-Biden White House.
Ethics, very important for Democrats. I know, before you start slapping your belly, slapping your knee, laughing at that one, Let's establish something right up front. I think that nepotism is to be discouraged. I think nepotism is a bad thing in politics, and I cannot defend the president's nepotism policies. I can't. I don't view them as a huge deal. They're certainly not illegal, but I will not defend it. So let's understand it, and it would not have been my choice. So because it's not possible to say you're opposed to nepotism and see what the president has done. And we talk about principle here. It's not possible to say that isn't a failing of the structure within the White House right now, irrespective of how effective the members of his family are in the roles that they have. Doesn't matter. Nepotism is a principle. You're not supposed to do this. The president has chosen to do this. It is what it is. I leave it there. I've said it. There we are. Okay. Now we can talk about the moral failings of Democrats. Because it's one thing to say don't hire a family member to have a very senior job in the government because they're a family member. It's one thing to say that. That's, it's like in the not great. It's kind of like when Trump tweets something really nasty about an unimportant person, and I'm like, does he have to do that? But then I think, well, most of his tweets are awesome, and his policies have been fantastic, and so I'm willing. No one is perfect. And that is a true thing. Whenever you're trying to assess a politician, you can't hold them to a standard of perfection, because then you're just going to go crazy. And also, you're going to let people that really should be called out and should be publicly repudiated, you're going to let them get away because, no one's perfect, so we're not going to make any distinctions now. That's a very leftist point of view. That moral relativism extended to all aspects of society is a very left-wing approach to things. But if we're talking about morality and ethics, let's make sure we're all, to borrow from Obama, very clear. Oh, and Simone Sanders is a Biden advisor now, but she had been associated previously with the Bernie campaign. Let me be clear, as Obama says. The spying on the Trump campaign and the usage of the federal government national security apparatus as a weapon, as a political weapon against an incoming administration is not only illegal and should see far more legal consequences than we've seen, it's deeply immoral. It's wrong what they did. What the Obama team and with Obama's knowledge and consent did to the incoming Trump administration was so unethical that it makes America seem like some third world tin pot dictatorship where the people in power refused to give it up, even with the expressed will of the people through an election. That is what happened. You want to talk about undermining our institutions, undermining our democracy? There is nothing, absolutely nothing that you can point to in Trump's time in office that comes anywhere near the gravity and the dangerousness of what Obama and his top people did. Could you all you have to do is think about if when Obama was coming into office, there was a fake P-tape dossier that was being briefed to Obama and it was opposition research from the RNC, and that was being brought to him by the Bush administration at the time's FBI director, and then it was leaked to CNN, and it became the whole thing is such a scam, such a dirty politics scam. The Obama administration was the most corrupt, more corrupt than the Clinton administration, most corrupt administration of my lifetime, because on the issue where it mattered most, on that peaceful transition of power, they did everything they could to hobble the incoming Trump team, to settle political scores, and to abuse and weaponize the most powerful and therefore most dangerous institutions of our government against his political opponents. Straight up third world dictatorship bullcrap from the Obama team. That's what Russia collusion was. That's what the assault on General Flynn and the FISA warrants against Carter Page and Crossfire Hurricane against Papadopoulos, all of that was really our worst nightmare as a country, almost made real, right? I mean, they tried but failed. And the nightmare is that the outgoing administration uses the trappings of power to destroy the incoming team and deny the American people the government they deserve because of our free and fair election. The Obama administration not only failed when in office, they left office doing the most disgraceful political actions of my lifetime. That's the truth of the ethics and the high moral code of the Obama team.
Because of the solid foundation that we poured in those first 3 years, the American comeback has begun. In May and June, our economy saw the two largest one-month increases in jobs in American history. We've actually already added more than 9 million jobs back to the American economy. We've added more jobs back to this economy in 3 months than Joe Biden and Barack Obama added to our economy in 8 years.
The results speak for themselves, but it's also good to have Mike Pence speak for them, the Vice President of the United States. Producer Mark, a little bird tells me that we might actually get a visit from the VP on the show sometime soon.
I hope that little bird is correct.
Yeah, I'm hearing a little bird that the Vice President really likes the Buck Sexton show, thinks the Freedom Hut is fantastic, and he's going to join in to say hi to everybody. I'm hearing rumors. I'm hearing stories out there on the street from the people, because I'm in touch with the people. So on an economic record sense, I've just got to tell you that there is there's no way that you can look at what happens in this country when Democrats are in charge and think that it's going to be better for working people, small business owners, just overall, everybody who has a pension, a 401k, everybody who owns real estate. The dynamism of the American economy is much better served by the Republican vision. It's not perfect, and we can talk about the imperfections, but the Republican vision of letting the business of the American people be their business, right? By actually allowing our skill, allowing vision, entrepreneurship to create growth. If you listen to some of the more interesting philosophers, I really like this guy, Naval Ravikant, and he talks about this. If you've never listened to his podcast, he's got a lot of really insightful thoughts on how to live your life, but also in the business world, on technology. He's a well-known Silicon. We should probably have him on the show at some point. His brother, Kamal Ravikant, is a dear friend of mine, and he has been on the show. So some of you have heard Kamal. He's former 10th Mountain best-selling author, also a tech entrepreneur. They're two fascinating brothers. But one thing that Naval talks about, and I think he might have even got into this on the Joe Rogan podcast, which when's Joe Rogan going to have me on his podcast? That needs to happen. Joe Rogan does good stuff. I like his show. But Naval says that if you look at how wealth creation actually works, you have to think of it as wealth as opposed to status. There are status games and there are wealth games, he says. Status games are who's in a position of authority over you, who is exalted or who is elevated over someone else. You know, that's politics. That's power in the government. Wealth creation makes things better and more plentiful for everyone. And it's not zero sum. Status games are zero sum, Naval says. Wealth creation is something that actually can benefit everyone. And a way to think about this is if you look at how much we all have now as a society, and you hear these statistics too about how everyone has a color TV now, and usually a flat panel TV that, you know, the TV that you have right now in your living room, I know probably some of you don't have a TV, but the TV you have in your living room, if you had tried to buy it 20 years ago, probably would have cost like $7,000 and would have been considered space age, right? But it's the TVs now. There's much greater value and the dollars you spend, you're getting much more for it because technology has improved because of the value add of the research and development. And so now everybody's getting better TVs, and the companies that make them are also continuing to make money and stay up with the market. So, but you compare that even more easily. Think about how much you have now, and wherever you are across the country, around the world, what you have in terms of real material wealth: your health care, your communications, the quality of your clothing, the quality of your food, and then what 100 years ago the wealthiest people in the world would have had. And, you know, you have things that they couldn't really have dreamed of then. And you also have access to so much more instantaneous communication and travel. And, you know, the food that you are eating, think of it this way, the food that you are eating today is higher quality and often, I mean, look, if you're somebody that likes to go and eat the bloomin' onion at, where do they have the bloomin' onion, producer Mark?
Outback.
Thank you. I remember reading about that once, that that's like the highest calorie meal you could get pretty much at. It's like 3,000 calories if you eat that thing.
But it's certainly delicious.
Have you had it? Is it good?
Of course, who hasn't?
I can't eat it. But yeah, I'm a weirdo.
Anyone who can eat gluten loves it.
I mean, it probably tastes amazing. Onion, when properly deep fried, salted, and put with some kind of a cream sauce, is a fantastic vegetable. When you do that to an onion, good things happen. But anyway, I'm not saying that there wasn't high quality food then, but I'm just saying that your overall wealth and your overall, oh yeah, and producer Nick points out it's an appetizer. I always love it too. They can't get real Australians to do any of these average. They always get something out to speak Australian, you know, for Foster's Australia. I'm like, that guy's not even Australian. They get an American to do a bad Australian accent. You know, I have never heard, and I actually have some Aussie friends, I have never heard an Aussie say, put some shrimp on the barbie, right? I mean, this is our version of it. And I think Foster's beer is now brewed and made in like New Jersey or something. Someone has to fact check me on that. That could be wrong, but I think it might have like nothing to do with actual Australia. Producer Nick, let me know if that one's true. So, and producer Mark, what the heck was I talking about? I got all on the Australian thing now. Oh, zero sum wealth. So because this is important. I know I'm bouncing around, but there's a fundamental flaw in the left-wing Marxist approach to all this, and that is that they believe that by making you a little less rich, they'll make other people more rich, right? And this is where the redistribution of wealth idea comes in, the Marxism comes in, and that it even if by taking away, let's say, from a business, by raising a business's taxes so there'll be fewer people who are employed by that business and more expensive and less products, more expensive products from that business, that means there's less wealth creation. But they think it's, to borrow from Obama, the right thing to do. That's what they'll tell you, the right thing to do. Well, no, when the government intervenes in that way and is taking from a business and is regulating it, making its products less efficient, more costly, less people have access to those goods and services that they want, they're actually destroying wealth. And take it even further back. You are an American living a normal, let's say, middle class lifestyle, or working class lifestyle in this country, has a lot of wealth and a lot of things that somebody in the year 1900 who was incredibly rich for the time would not have had. Right? And that's because we are wealthier as a society. There is greater abundance. Now, I'm not talking about spiritual wealth, obviously. I'm talking about it in material terms. Democrats reject the idea that that when someone's doing well, it doesn't have to be at the expense of someone else. That's where the class warfare comes in. That's central to their ideology. That's central to their belief system. And that's why when Pence talks about the record, when we're having a discussion about the economics of the Democrat Party versus the Republican Party, it's very important to remember Democrats focus on what can we do to take from some people to give to others. Republicans focus on what can we do so that everybody can have as much as they can get. What can we do for that? And yes, there's a safety net that's in place, and we're not in a truly a true free market economy, and there's a lot of areas of this where there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Yup, Foster's has been brewed in Fort Worth, Texas since 2011. Bam! Foster's, Australian for not Australian.